Oh, man. Okay, let's get this going. Episode 3 of New Wave Gaming. Very excited to have all of you here. Thank you, listeners. And welcome. Hold on. I already messed this up. Let's, from the top, the quip. Welcome, listeners, gamers, non-gamers, PvEers, PvPers, and even NPCs. We do not discriminate. Very excited to have you here. Tomahawk, always a pleasure, never a chore.
Yeah, morning, Ovox.
Man, first things first, I think we should thank the listeners that are out there checking us out. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. We're watching those numbers kind of slowly creep up, and it's really awesome to see that there's people clicking in and checking us out. Yeah, the analytics kind of tell you, you know, when there's like someone new checking you out, and it's just like, oh, cool, man. I hope they enjoy what we're talking about. And really pumped to get this third episode up, but not going to lie, Tomahawk, I'm a little nervous and shaky over here. What's going on?
Yeah, those analytics, they do get to you. They're pretty specific, aren't they?
Oh, man, I got to admit, my phone looked at me and a little thing popped up and it said, you've been on here 25% more than you usually are. And I'm just like, fuck. It's because I'm looking at those analytics, man, hitting that refresh button.
It's like we're pretty popular amongst Jewish cowboys.
That must be your influence, man, up in Tennessee.
The Bucky Goldstein.
I think I think a lot of our numbers are coming out of Mexico, and I think that's partially on my end. I've been sharing it, and I live down here, so I think a lot of gamers mexicanos están escuchando. Gracias, por cierto.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We should probably include some in Spanish type stuff. I think like folks would enjoy that probably, even that don't speak Spanish. I know, like when I can find something that's in both languages, like say if you did the intro in Spanish as well, like yeah. It helps me learn Spanish, because I know it. I've already heard it in English. So.
Should I try that real quick?
Yeah, let's lay it out there.
Hola, bienvenidos y muchísimas gracias. Les damos la bienvenida a nuestros listeners, gamers, no gamers, PvEers, PvPers y también a los NPCs. Nosotros no discriminamos. Te queremos mucho y agradecemos tu participación en nuestro podcast. How did that go? I got a little nervous there, but it came out.
Bienvenidos todo. My broken Spanish. Oh, God.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so this is the New Wave Gaming Podcast. We're very stoked that you're here and listening. And if this is your first time popping in, thank you very much. In fact, if you dig the podcast, or even if you don't, whatever you listen to us on, give us a 5-star there if you like, and or leave us a review. It can even be a bad review, where you totally chew us out. If you give us 5 stars or top notch there, we'll shout you out on the podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No griefers though. I don't want any griefers in here.
No, let them grieve. Hey, as long as they're kicking down the 5 stars, man, it helps us out a bunch. I think it'll make those numbers grow a little bit, and we love to get the feedback, honestly, because it'll only make things better.
Yeah.
We'll pay attention.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking as I was kind of researching this survival game topic, I kept coming across it seems like it does kind of attract griefers, and it was kind of a term I didn't necessarily think of them as at first, but
yeah, but that's what we're going to be talking about in this episode: survival games. There's a little bit of history there. Of course, we're not necessarily a gaming history podcast. We just like to talk about vintage retro gaming and platforms and games and stuff like that from before, and kind of how everything evolved into what it is today, and how it's evolved into the experiences and games that we enjoy so much, even the angers. And on that, would it be fair, Tomahawk, to do a little advisory here that we might get a little heated, especially when talking about some survival games? A little advisory, we might get a...
Oh, my Lord. Yeah. The struggle is real in ARK the last couple of weeks for sure. I have lost everything twice in the span of about 8 days. So yeah,
ARK is one of our favorite survival games. In fact, what I saw there is I looked into our group chat, and all of a sudden I see signed in We were getting raided. It wasn't pretty.
Oh my God. Like, Mickey and I just had a discussion the other night about how I was going to do better in the next PvP session. And like, I can't say that happened. Like, exactly. I was grossly outgunned, but, yeah, we can get into it a little later if you want. But yeah,
sounds fun.
It's
I'm
super,
excited.
super tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're going to leave a timestamp in the notes of this episode if you want to skip forward to when we begin the topic discussion of survival games proper and all that fun stuff. But usually we like to start off with just some chit chat. So I guess we can keep it short and sexy though, because most of our chit chat's probably going to be revolving around survival games anyway.
Yeah. Before we get started, there's something I need to tell you.
Oh boy.
Like, I'm going to have to take over this podcast. And this should answer any questions that you have.
What are we looking at there?
Can you see it?
Hold on. Let me go full screen here. We're going to have to explain to the listeners. So listeners, what, first and foremost, let it be on record. Tomahawk and I are co-hosts. No one's really in charge here, but if he needs to take something over, I want to see what he's showing me here. Hold on. How do I maximize this? Oh, what? How did you get that?
Yeah, I have my channels.
Man, this is going to cause controversy.
Took on a new job. And
so Tomahawk just showed me the Star Trek Section 31 black insignia. Now, I know that's going to cause controversy. We may even lose some listeners because they're going to be like, what? Star Trek? Star Wars, man. It's about Star Wars. But we're all Star Trek fans here. Oh, man.
We're all part of the Federation, but...
the United Federation of Planets. I'm a little jealous, man. How did you get that?
If things don't... Well, you get it when you sign up. They kind of approach you like you don't get it. You don't go get it. Like once you get they approach you. I think once we started getting more listeners, they saw an avenue to get out there and they
promote Section 31.
They did, yeah. Well, just there might be some information that they need to disseminate at some point. So yeah, if I have to take over, I'll give you the nod.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I'm going to relinquish control.
I don't want to get phasered in the back or anything. That's super cool, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm jealous. The Star Trek insignia from Section 31. You can find a picture of that on Google, I'm sure. Mm. And any Star Trek fans out there are going to be probably jealous just like myself. Man, so let's do this. I want to set a scene. Here. Mm-hmm. It's 1878. You're likely in a nice little suburb of London. Let me pull this up here.
Feels nice.
Did I say 1978? I meant to say 1878, in case I messed that up.
It's Yorkshire pudding or something, probably.
Yeah, it's 1878.
A little bit of gravy.
You're in your study. And you're feeling like, gosh, I could use a little smoke. You pull out your pipe and you look for your pouch of tobacco, but it isn't there.
Oh, you're about to take a rip. A little rip.
Your pouch isn't there, and you start to feel like something isn't going proper. It isn't right. And then you notice that it's about 11:15, and no one has brought you your tea and your crumpets. They call that
11sies.
11sies, correct. And then basically from there, everything is falling apart. So you decide to get up and you go outside and you notice that rugs are unkept, things are not tidied, and there's nobody to be found. What do you do from there?
You've got to investigate further. Where is everyone?
Right?
Good Lord, where's my tea?
and why is it 1878?
And where's my pouch?
And is it really tobacco in there?
Negatory ghostwriter.
So this here is kind of just a rough description of the very first, at least on record, according to what we found in some Google research here, the very first survival game, and it is from 1878 by a group called Pickering's Gaming Emporium. And I mean, we're not going to dive too much into the history of the first survival games. I don't think really that's what we need to get into, but it's still worthy of mention, I think, that the quote-unquote survival game experience was going on way before what I expected to find online.
Yeah, I find it interesting, too, that this isn't an actual on a video, like it's not coming through a TV or anything. It's a game, and it's kind of setting the precedent for, kind of the some of the
anxiety,
like Oregon Trail type things that come out later. And when I saw this included in the articles about survival games, it made me kind of examine that thought, like do our roots go back to board games and like Monopoly and the Game of Life I remember playing as a kid. And especially when I thought about like did you ever see or when you were really young maybe a game called Life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But do you think this was a board game? I kind of got the vibe that this was like you had to kind of do your own acting, if you will, like role playing. It was a role playing game of the 1800s. That's kind of the vibe I got. But I didn't think that maybe it was a board game. I don't know.
It definitely it's almost like it's going into a new territory there, isn't it? Like you could imagine that. Like I remember my grandmother talking about some of the games they played as a kid, Mumbledy Peg and Jacks and things, and they typically involved some sort of dice or something. It kind of you had cards and dice, like you're kind of going into a storytelling thing here, and sort of setting up a world that has several outcomes. I think like a twist a plot type. Like I remember these twist a plot books came out when I was a kid, and like it actually had several endings. And so, I think you're kind of seeing the door open for survival games right there. And I find that really interesting.
Gosh, that makes a lot of sense. And now, it's because when I saw this article and going into the next survival game era, I saw both and I was like, well, how were these games actually played in the moment? I was trying to visualize it. That's why I was like, oh, let's set the scene here. But like now that you mentioned dice or something to that effect, like a device of sorts to bring organization to the game so that there's like a path to follow, kind of like, or you know where to go. That makes sense. Maybe there was some dice involved or something like that. But I remember reading this and just trying to visualize in my brain, like, okay, I'm sitting there in a study, probably a nice home in London or something, because I think this is a game from England. I believe. I might be wrong, but anyways, I'm just trying to visualize myself there, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking for my pouch. I can't find it. I could see how back then that would be a real issue. Where's my tobacco? And then whoever not bringing tea and crumpets, I guess, or 11 C's. I could see that, but yeah, the dice or something like that would make a lot more sense. It's like how do you do it?
Do you feel like there was a board involved, or it was more like a sheet of paper that they're reading this scenario on? Like,
no, I think it was role played. I think that I'm like, so there's a developer here. The developers are called Pickering's Gaming Emporium. So and I'm completely speculating here. I think that you would, if you were interested in participating in the survival game, you would go to these folks, and they would have like a house or something like that pre-set up, and they already know the outline of the game. All you know is that they offer this game. So you go, and they're like, okay, this is it. This is all you need to know. And then you go ahead and we'll get started and we'll get this game going. And you would go to them for the experience.
Almost like today's escape rooms, right? Like if you're familiar with those?
Escape rooms. What have you been up to, Tomahawk? No, I'm just kidding.
They have a thing here in Nashville, I think, even, and it's like almost exactly like you described. Like you show up there with, say, a group of your friends. They lock you in this room, and it's got maybe a desk and all sorts of things, and you have to look for clues, like to figure out how to escape the room. Like you have like 30 minutes or so, and there's tons of puzzles, and like there's all sorts of genres of it, like horror and different ways you can go about it, like more Sherlock Holmes type scene, and Yeah, I would almost bet there in Cabo they've done that by now, because like it I think it's kind of time consuming, but I think you could it's a good way to make money. Like people like to do it on vacation type thing. You're there with your family and everybody goes, and I could see some pretty cool like Baja type themes that you could do. That would be really interesting. If it's not there, we should open it. Like, where's my pouch?
Yeah.
Donde está mi?
¿Dónde está mi bolsita? So, okay. I'm just looking here at our notes. After Where's My Pouch, and we'll just go through this quickly because it looks like the game didn't do that well for these folks at Pickering's Gaming Emporium. Like it did okay, but it didn't really like skyrocket or anything like that. I'm reading from an article. I forgot to mention that we kind of got most of this from a really good article. It's a short and good article from 2017 from survivethis.news. And let me read this real quick. It says, and this is regarding Where's My Pouch? The game, if not a little childish, did see some play and even spurred several copycats, such as Pantry Palava, I'm sure I had my pocket watch this morning, and Who's That Now?
Who's that now?
It says, however, none of these silly survival-style satires achieved major success, and the survival genre faded back into the ether. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
I got vibes of I think I've mentioned to you before in some of our first episode, the game Zork, like Zork 1, 2, and 3. I think it actually, in popular culture, it showed up in a Big Bang Theory episode at some point. I think it was one of Sheldon's favorites, and it was a game I played on the Commodore 64. But the beginning is kind of like you have to read this text that says you're in a room, there's a mailbox here, there's a door, it's locked.
Rudimentary.
What do you do next?
Yeah, the basics.
And you've got to type in open mailbox, and it'll say there's a letter inside, and like ultimately you go through this chain of events that you've got to. There's a lot of role playing involved. Like you've got to use your imagination, and that's almost how I pictured this. Where's My Pouch? Like I pictured it like kind of written on a piece of paper, like maybe it had been run through an old timey paper press type mill type thing. How the first newspapers they made, and you had maybe almost like a dungeon master type person that was reading the thing that was kind of getting everybody into character and whatnot, but it didn't really say exactly.
Yeah.
And the way that it made it out like it was a single person, like definitely fits more as exactly how you described it. Like the dungeon master role was kind of probably played by the administrators of the game at their place, somewhere. That makes a lot of sense, and man, that would be fun. But why is my picture of the 1870s like everybody was gunfighting, like you wouldn't have time to be playing games, like you'd either be getting over syphilis or something, or
God, tomahawk, getting real, actually having real tomahawks thrown at you or something. I mean, it was only I don't know, about a decade after the Civil War. But see, I think these games were in England though, man. But still, not that England wasn't, dealing with their own stuff in those times.
Yeah, I think somewhere in my childish memory, it's like England's still like kings and castles over there at that point or something.
Well, they are still kings and queens and castles. Gosh.
Yeah. That's what it would be awesome to really have that time machine that we could go and see, and that's actually why I showed you the Section 31 badge earlier.
Man,
I do have a time machine, and I'd like you to get in here.
You're gonna beam over, and I'm waiting for you to appear next to me.
Yeah, we're gonna break the temporal accords.
Screw the Prime Directive. No.
God, I love that shit.
I want to mention. I think we should, talk about what are survival games, number one, and what makes a survival game. But before that, just to knock out this like pre-1980s, pre-Oregon Trail rather. I think that's an important one because the Oregon Trail game was huge, and we'll talk about that. But just to close up the pre-Oregon Trail survival games and how they all started off, there was another weird one in 1901, it looks like. A guy decided to create a game. Oh, no, the developer was King Edward VII. And it looks like, I guess his mom, Queen Victoria, didn't particularly enjoy games, of the humorous nature. So I guess it must have been severe because his whole idea was to like undo the harm. Again, this is another scenario where I'm just trying to visualize this on a larger scale on what it all means. But basically, it looks like King Edward VII created a game called Well-Fed Alfred.
Well-fed
Alfred. Did you hear about that?
I did. Like, I'm picturing a big old room, like straight out of Game of Thrones, like where there's a king sitting on a throne. You got some jesters, the guys with the funny hats with the bells on them, and they're all over there like trying to entertain him, and like it doesn't work out, and he like lops your head off. It's like the next guy's like, I got to try something different. Let's play a game.
Oh man. Well, I guess so King Alfred created His Majesty's Entertainment. No, excuse me. His Majesty's Entertaining Pursuits. That was the name of his little development group.
Yeah, I feel like he's the first person that's like swiping left or right on people. Like when the gestures like, come out, try to make him laugh, doesn't work out. He's like,
yeah, thumbs down.
To the dungeon.
Says that his first game, he took inspiration. I think this is why it didn't do well. His first game took inspiration from a cannibal called Alfred Packer, an American who at the time was recently released from prison. I guess he was like a cannibal serial killer or something like that. And
jeez.
Yeah, they based the story around his misdeeds in the mountains of Colorado. It says a well-fed Alfred aimed to test the length of time you and 5 companions could last during a hunt for treasured gold in the freezing wilderness of the Rocky Mountains. Your secondary challenge was to refrain from going mad and making fine meals out of your friends. As you might have guessed, people weren't too fond of the game's plot or its dark humor. Coming out of the article from Survive This.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make a fine meal out of your friends. Did you see that movie Alive when they could crash that plane and they have to eat each other?
I did. It was a long time ago, though.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
I think you start with the butt. I'm pretty sure. Like that's what they started with.
Going right into the ass. Oh, sorry.
A little bit of ass.
I'm sorry. Right.
No, you're good. Cheek meat.
Yeah. Just dive right in there. Oof. So, yeah, that game didn't do well. And then there was another little sparkle of survival games in the 1950s. And, man, I really looked for these. I wanted to see, because they're pretty funny, the names here. You can read them off. I wanted to see what these games looked like or how they were played, but I really just couldn't find much, and I ended up giving up. But in the 1950s, it says there was a few British big hits, such as Perchance Was That a Wolf?, The Cotswolds, and my personal favorite here, Life Without Butter. And these are survival games, man. At least at the time,
It is interesting. You can, like in the names, like you can see that they're hearkening back to "Where's My Pouch?" Perhaps is that like that sort of question there. If you feel that vibe, like mm-hmm. it kind of paved the way there. It seems like.
Yeah, it does, and I think and I think we'll see here that per what we believe makes a survival game these days. And the elements of a survival game, there's not a lot of those elements we'll see aren't really in these older versions of survival games, like Where's My Pouch and these newer, like Life Without Butter. In the United States, there were a few successful survival games there in the 1950s. One of them was called Flea Bison. Mm-hmm. And Mark Twain inspired a game called Jelly Party, which I'm interested. Jelly Party. Hey,
it's the party just moving like jelly.
Yeah. But I think the thing here that connects all of these survival games, all of them, all the way up to Ark and Rust and Days Gone and etc., is the anxiety factor. Mm-hmm. that feeling of uncertainty and just anxiety all in all. I mean, like even with Where's My Pouch, you know, that they're building on that anxiety right off the bat with, you know, tobacco's missing. Nobody brought the 11 C's. Things are all over the place and not where they're supposed to be. It builds that anxiety. And that's kind of like a huge thing. It's a huge psychological thing, I think, in all these survival games that keep us coming back.
And do you think that's like more like to produce a game, or the fact that they're sort of putting you in a role-playing situation that mimics the conditions of real life, that causes you to have those same anxieties that we all kind of have in our own real lives, or is it a little bit of both?
Maybe a little bit of both, because they're building on things that we're familiar with. At least with I'm thinking of the Where's My Pouch. Like the player is familiar with having his pouch, his or her pouch, his or her 11 C's. You know, your brain is like used to these things,
like a comfort zone,
zone, expecting them, and then now you're playing this game and knowingly or unknowingly, you know, these elements are tweaked, removed, modified, and it kind of just throws that, like, wait a minute. It destroys that comfort perimeter or whatever what your brain is used to, and, you know, throwing a monkey wrench and all of that.
Yeah.
So it just naturally, like, I think it just builds one form or another of anxiety.
Yeah. And, you know, as we're laying out here,
were you not a little anxious when you saw that giga coming through your gates?
Oh, a ton. And like
fuck, we're getting
I
raided.
don't even think, so much just in the moment, but immediately my heart started beating a mile a minute when I kind of walked out, got on my dragon, like kind of just getting ready for a normal day, looking what's on him, like, hey, let me put this meat over here in this trough, like kind of thing, and all of a sudden I hear boom.
Oh God, I hate that. Yeah, they're blowing C4.
And
gosh.
So I got on my dragon and I just sat there, like, and he didn't see me, and I didn't move it, like, and I just sat and kind of, you know, watched him come in, and I thought, like, when he comes over here to this door, I'm gonna light him up, and like, because I was right in front of the door, and he did, and I don't know exactly what happened. Like, for a second, I thought maybe he's cheating, but like when I hit the hot water on the dragon, it just didn't go. Like it didn't appear on the screen. Like, it made that noise, but it didn't appear on the screen. And the only thing I can think of is I aimed too far left of him, and it just kind of, like, the rendering of the building that was there kind of absorbed that graphic or whatever.
Maybe,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of turned to go get him, like he starts running back for his lightning wyvern, and he's got a big, like, 300 level lightning wyvern. And
was it just one dude?
One dude. And like I kind of, as I'm flying around to get turned around to start shooting back at him, I get stuck on our gigas. Like, I fly kind of behind them, and I can't get out. Like, I'm stuck in there.
Were they all over the place?
No, they were just sitting, you know, they were on passive or whatever.
Yeah,
but I tried to whistle follow me, like, to get him to move so I could get out of there, and that didn't work. And then I did whistle, like, even though we clearly talked about not doing it, I did whistle aggressive for a second just to, like, get him to move so I could get out of there. And, like, I did get out of there. But by that time, like, while I was stuck in there, he got that giga out, and man, he just, like, one-shotted my tropical wyvern out from under me, like, immediately. Like, I'm flying by him, like, I kind of come in to like wet him down, and he one-shots it. Like, it must have been, like, super leveled up, and
yeah,
like, I
it's
literally
a giga,
I land on my feet, like I'm flying forward, and then I'm on my feet running, like, and I just ran for it. I was like, "There's no hope here." Like, you know, like, what am I going to do? We didn't even have turrets set up, so it was game over. But yeah, for a lot of frustrating role playing going on right there, and I kind of, like, I see that in these initial games for sure, and yeah, I
just the anxiety. That's the only thing. Anxiety.
Yeah, it kind of mimics real life for sure, and I think, like, that real sense of loss and grief and fear, like all those emotions that you just can't drum that up in Pac-Man. You know, I mean,
No,
I get excited about losing.
Yeah, it's because those games are. Gosh, how do you put it? It's a different form of anxiety. Like and I think in most games you're kind of you're seeking an end. There's an end, and you know that it's there. You know that there's a final boss. You know that there's a final level. You know that you're going to fail. Maybe the case. Like when I look at Pac-Man, you know, I love that game, but I know that eventually those little ghosts are going to get me. So I know that's going to happen. With these survival games, man, and I don't want to dive too deep into Ark because I know we're going to talk about that a lot. And if fellow gamers, non-gamers out there, if you've probably already figured out that Ark is a survival game, and if you've heard our previous episodes, you've probably heard us mention it a few times. But oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Tomahawk, help me out here. I just totally had a brain fart. Shoot.
Just kind of talking about like the emotions that you go through with these survival games, like in a real
That's it.
play, you know, the real life playing.
You just saved me. Yeah, thank you. So with these games, you don't know what the end is going to be. You don't know. There's so much uncertainty, and it builds so much anxiety. And like, even from going back to where's my pouch, it's that not knowing what's up. You know, if you're playing a board game, you're probably going to know how it's going to end, or you'll have an idea about how it ends. With Where's My Pouch, with Free Bison, I suspect, with Oregon Trail, certainly, Survival Island, all these old games, and even the new ones like Rust, like Ark, man, especially Rust. Holy tamale, we can get into Rust here in a little bit. There's just no knowing. You don't know if you're going to do well, if you're not going to do well. You don't know if you're going to die minute one, if you're going to make it all the way to the end of, beginning game, mid game, end game. Obviously, the idea is to get to end game in a lot of these scenarios, which is like when you're well advanced into the game and you've survived for a long time. You know, there's just all that uncertainty. And that's not something that's, that's unique to survival games. Hence the name, the genre.
It feels like we're kind of filling out this definition of a survival game, like what makes a survival game here to me, and I think you're hitting dead on it. And you know, in my analogy of Pac-Man, like pretty much, like, you know, I think my head went to the arcade, and like all I have at risk here is that few minutes that I'm on there and my quarter. But when I'm playing Ark, I have hundreds of hours that it took me to tame, you know, those things. I've raised these dinosaurs from a baby, and I'm watching them die. I mean, like, there's a lot invested. Like, there's, you know, your
Stop
feelings
rating
about
us.
it. There's Mickey's feelings about it. Like there's all those, you know, it's like I want to.
Yeah. Gosh, I didn't think about that.
One of I was when I was in Mexico last, hanging with our friend Jack, and he looked at me and he said, we were talking about, you know, that we didn't hang out with a lot of different people and stuff, and he said, yeah, I usually hang out with someone, and you know, until they prove that they're an idiot, and then so you know, it's like I don't want to be proven as an idiot. Like, you know, I want to be like a good team member, a good tribe member that you know, is solid and can be depended upon. You know, so there's a lot at risk there. You know, there's.
Yeah, no, I get it, man, and it's
reputation, like all that's out there.
Yeah, no, and it's like it's the one. Maybe it's game specific, but it feels like the one genre where, especially if it's when it's multiplayer, and again, it may be game specific, but when it's multiplayer, it's like the one scenario where you can't just be like, well, it's just a game. It's like, yeah, it is, but it's different here, you know. Like I just kind of, you know, whether in good or in bad, if you have tribe mates, like in a game like Ark or Rust, I never thought about that. Like, there's other people's time have been like put into it, and you know, and if you go on a raid and you're successful, you're bringing all that wealth into your tribe, into your game circle, and it's treasured. Or when you build stuff together, it's treasured. But also when it fails. It's a together thing, and it's psychological. It's different because you can't like. It's hard to just be like. I mean, it's true, but it's hard to just be like, oh, don't worry, man. It's just a game. And then behind you're like, God damn it! If you just, no, that doesn't. I mean,
I think people say those words like I know like when I've screwed up, you've said that to me. Oh man, don't think twice about it. But like
I meant it, Tomahawk. Like, I do mean it.
I know you do, but like you know me well enough to know like I'm gonna think more than twice about it. Like I'm gonna think about it for the rest of my life. Like
you're on your your final moments there, and your girl comes up. Is there anything you need to say? Tell Ovox I did my best, but they blew the gates.
It was me. I was the one that whistled aggressive.
I never told him, but we got insided.
Well, I'd love to like maybe you walk the listeners through. Like we ended up in a scenario there. I think Mother's Day was last weekend, and like Mickey and I were both our other tribe mate were out of town, and you were there alone, at the base, and it started getting raided. Like I feel like that, like that's happened to me, and it jacks you up. Like it jacked me up, like because I had so many different emotions. Like I think it, obviously we'd made it clear we weren't going to be around, but there's a feeling of like, fuck, where is everybody? Like you want, like a lot of your plans on what you would do have been based on the fact that you're going to have help or a tribe there to, and you're there all alone. And
yeah. I mean, I think we should dive into that maybe a little bit after we cover a little bit more ground. Let's finish up let's break down some definitions, but I definitely want to jump into that. And for the record, if you and Mickey had been on, we would have won. But it was Mother's Day, man. It was Mother's Day. No worries.
So bad. There needs to be like what I wished for in that moment was that, like, say if we were playing on the Switch or something, like I'd have been able to whip that bad boy out, and like do something right
Happy
there.
Mother's
My
Day,
mom
Mom.
would have
Give me
been
a
on
second.
board. She would have been on board. I would have explained it to her.
Get
like
him,
she
son.
knows what we do. She'd have been like, this is going to take a second, Mom. Like, hold on.
Get after it.
Like, yeah. I was, I think that's coming. Like if we were playing on PC, we could whip out Steam Decks or laptops, I guess even, are always available. But I longed for, something other than carrying my PlayStation over to Mom's house, would have been a solution too, I guess. But
well, hey, it's just a game. Don't give it a second thought. Just kidding.
I felt for you, man, and I think.
It's all
like
good.
I say, we're not going to go too super deep in there, but I know the feeling and respect it. So let's make sure I'm not driving us too far off our outline.
Yeah, no,
here,
I'm going to come at you with a quick question, and that is, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, lay it on me.
Oh boy, ChukTomahawk, what is a survival game?
Boy, you've got me here. I don't know.
You can use cheat codes if you want.
That I have like a textbook definition in my head. Like I do have sort of a cheat code here, I think. But it's.
I really like the.
It's going to include some things. Like you're going to have an open world. There's going to be some crafting going on. There's going to be some base building type mechanic of sorts. You're going to have a character that you're going to have to manage. He's going to possibly be dealing with things like thirst and hunger.
Those are definitely elements of a survival game. I think it's kind of hard to describe a survival game, and I may have mentioned this earlier. If I did, apologies, listeners, but it seems like when we first came up with this topic, like, hey, let's talk about survival games and how they've evolved over time. My brain automatically kind of focused in on or got very close-minded around open world, multiplayer. I was basically thinking Ark, Rust, Valheim. That's what my brain automatically went to, when in reality, it's not necessarily an open world. It's not necessarily multiplayer. It's not, these... if we really break it down to the basics, survival is just surviving. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to use that as as a definition, you know, oh, well, your character, your player, your little figure has to survive. Okay, well, you know, then all games are survival games almost. But I didn't really like realize just how much broader this topic is.
Yeah, I have to say the Oregon Trail, like if I could, you know, kind of take us out there for a sec.
Let's go there. Absolutely.
You know, I remember being in probably around 5th grade, and we had a computer class, one of the first computer classes I think that ever existed, you know, in your basic grade school type situation. And I didn't necessarily, because there wasn't exactly like a character there that I was managing in an open world, like as you described, I saw it more as a game, like those mini games, like shooting the deer that ran across. And you know, I know there were decisions that had to be made that definitely were about our survival and making it across, you know, the country on the Oregon Trail. But I don't know that until they sort of framed it like this for us that I thought of that exactly. But I see it, you know, I see why it was a groundbreaker. I think it hit some kind of sweet spot that I think the education system recognized that it taught life lessons. And so they embraced it. That's why we were playing it at school. Like, they didn't let us play other games at school. Like, you weren't playing Pac-Man at school, like, or anything like that. So,
and did you get that the original 1971 version that was basically text command, I think, or did you play that later version that came out on the Apple II system in schools? Like they did I guess Apple did a port so that you could play it on the computers that they had, and then they also brought some graphics and sounds to it.
So let me do some quick math here. I would have been about 10, so I'm probably looking more like 1981, 80 or so. So yeah, I don't know that I saw the absolute first version. It was text. But when I say you shot a deer, they had literally taken text characters and drawn a deer with it. Like if you literally just got on a piece of paper in Word and used X's to draw the best deer you could possibly draw. Like the X's were your drawing board of sorts.
I think that was one of the first versions, Chuck.
Yeah, it's pretty early, but it did have like a deer came across the screen and you had to push the button, and we would play this as a class, dude, with like 20 people. Like, so, you know, it's like one person got to push the button when the shot, like somebody else got to type when it was time to, you know, we were all sharing this experience like in a row, sort of like you got your shot, you know, and if you missed the deer, we were on your ass. Like, we're like, man, we need that food.
Yeah.
We're gonna die of cholera. Like,
okay. they had that in there? No, I'm just kidding. You know, I got to play that as well. And it was gosh, that's a great nostalgic memory. It's exactly why we started this podcast, man. Like, I have great memories of playing the Oregon Trail on the old Apple II. And this must have been, gosh, it must have been around 1995, 96, maybe 1997, in that time frame there. Maybe even a little bit before, because I did do a couple of years of school in the U.S. before moving to Mexico when I was real small. So, yeah, I got to play that too, but I definitely played, like, the latest version of that time, you know, and it was on one of the Apple computers that the school had.
Yeah, I could see it being especially popular in Oregon with the name and all.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that part.
Have you ever been, like, fun fact, have you ever been anywhere in Oregon, like, where you can still see the actual Oregon Trail?
I have not been to anywhere where you can see it, at least not that I remember, to my knowledge.
They're outside of LeGrand once. Like, so I was there with the Forest Service, and some of the local folks there took us and let us see. Like, you can still see the ruts, like where the wagons came through, like all over Oregon, like different places. Yeah, it was like you're looking at it, like, damn, like that's history right there. It's like I played this on Apple II. So
there's a really good definition, I think, that kind of just comprises everything. I'm going to read it real quick. It's from Wiki, you know, good old Wikipedia. It says, survival games are a subgenre of action video games, usually set in a hostile, intense, open-world environment. Players generally begin with minimal equipment and are required to survive as long as possible by crafting tools, weapons, shelter, and collecting resources. Many survival games are based on randomly or procedurally generated, persistent environments. More recently, survival games are often playable online, allowing players to interact in a single world. Survival games are generally open-ended, with no set goals, and often closely related to the survival horror genre, where the player must survive within a supernatural setting, such as a zombie apocalypse. The last part isn't really our jive, but I really like this definition of survival games. It kind of comprises everything. It mentions the things that we were talking about earlier. Open-ended, no set goals, persistent environments, randomly or procedurally generated. So we got a game like Ark, which is randomly, and then a game like No Man's Sky, which is procedurally generated. Mm-hmm. And there's much older games that were procedurally generated. We'll touch on one of the first ones. We got it here in the outline. But
so are you taking that to mean like if it's not procedurally generated, like someone literally places each blade of grass and tree and everything, and if it is procedurally generated, there's sort of an algorithm that says, like, in this part of the map, spread the terrain this way, and that kind of figures that out.
Gosh, that's a good point. And I'm certainly not a game developer, designer by any means, and I'm not very, I don't know the ins and outs of it. But I don't know. I look at a game like Ark, and the maps are set, and the resources that spawn are set. They're that tree that you harvest when you spawn in on the island. It's going to spawn there again. It'll come back right there. So I don't think it's procedurally generated because, or maybe it is. Maybe I don't understand what procedurally technically means. But I know that, for example, if you look at a game like Rust, it's a little bit different. It's the same map always, but it reorganizes itself completely randomly, depending after the wipes. So, and
the points of interest change locations.
They change locations, resources. It all like just like huevos revueltos. You know what I'm saying? Like scrambled eggs. They just randomly. So I don't technically know the answer to that, but I can, as a player in the user experience, kind of see the differences. I just wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to tell you which is which, though. To be honest, I know that No Man's Sky is procedurally generated because Fist Pump, aka Pepe Tortilla, is always talking about No Man's Sky. Mm-hmm. He loves that game.
Yeah. I gave it a little shot. I haven't got super deep in it, but I almost took this, like you say, to mean like non-procedurally would be like you placed it more. And at times, like I feel that in Ark, and the way I feel it is like, once we have like a flyer, we're kind of usually getting around that way. But almost every time that I try to get somewhere by foot, like there is a way. and it's almost like someone's had to play that game and not in a procedural way. Like someone's had to move stuff and like kind of run up against a cliff and say, okay, there's no way to get up there. Like I need to make a little trail. And like, I've found that if you look enough, like you'll hit some dead ends here and there. But most of the time, like just like say our base on Valguero, there was a way to walk over to that obelisk. Like I didn't believe it at first, but Mickey found that way, and like once you sort of
a little cave there.
Like they've factored that in, that you may have to approach that on foot, and I feel like that only comes from like someone literally playing it and kind of being like, okay, we've got to reduce the slope on this rock cliff here. They'll never get up there, and it probably has to take a lot more time and care to do it that way. I almost sense like it's procedurally done, and then they go and fine tune it from there, because it would get a little maddening to place every blade of grass. But
yeah, man. Well, a lot of those maps are community created. They're created by players. Like at least that's my understanding. Like
Crystal Isles, I think.
Crystal Isles, Ragnarok. What are the other ones? I think Center was community created. So yeah, and you're right. I mean, they design those maps. So that's why it's hard. I don't think they're procedurally generated, maybe even not randomly generated, but the resources do respawn, so that you can keep crafting, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
What makes a survival game? That's the next thing here on our good old list. I think we've talked about it a bunch. I think it depends. It's kind of a and/or situation. But if you're on a game that includes character management, which can be thirst, hunger, stamina, mood, etc., or you have an open world / crafting, base building, resource management, a lot of games will take some or all of those items to create their survival game. So those are the basic elements, I think. And you have games where they take all of them to optimize the experience. I think if we look at a game like Rust, which, I wanted to see which is the most popular right now, Rust or Ark, or if there's any other survival games that are leading them. But I don't know. We'll have to check that out in a bit. But a game like Rust, for example, definitely has character management, definitely open world, definitely crafting. Lady calling?
Yeah. I'll have to table that for later.
Definitely has crafting, definitely has base building, and most certainly has resource management. I think Ark is the same. Plus dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And who doesn't want to have dinosaurs, right? It's like, what? I can craft stuff, PvP, and tame dinosaurs? Take my money.
Yeah, exactly. Here. I think we all, like, at some point played with dinosaurs as a kid, like in some place or another. Like you had a pet dinosaur, or a little toy that involved it. So that's just almost there in everyone.
Yeah, and so it's really like with this topic, we're looking at a bunch of different games, and I think Oregon Trail was kind of like the one that set the real pace, and that brought in a bunch of, certainly, I think, management, the character management. There's definitely hunger and stuff like that, right, Chuck T? You probably remember better than I do.
Yeah, I I never played Survival Island like or any of these. I did, like, as we were kind of doing our research, I kept seeing Robinson's Requiem come up, and I wanted to go and watch some videos of actual gameplay of that, and boy, you got a lot of imagination you got to use there. The graphics weren't super strong, but a lot of those mechanics, as far as bringing up an inventory and kind of going through it and things were there.
Well, yeah, it looks like Robinson's Requiem, which was kind of like a inspiration for and like a baseline for a lot of games that came out later. Robinson's Requiem, that came out in 1994. There was a lot of footwork way before that game came out, but they really were kind of like what it seems to be online, were the pioneers of crafting and inventory management. But if we go back to, like, we look at this game from, let's see here, I kind of want to go in the right order, but we have Survival Island from 1983. We have, which I think, gosh, was that the one? I think that was the one. I don't want to get him. No, it wasn't that one. That was Stranded. Stranded came out in 2003. We're going to talk about Stranded too, but we got Survival Island that came out on the Atari 2600. And then there was
83, I think, yeah.
1983.
Yeah.
And then there was a game called 7 Cities of Gold, 1984. Survival Island had health management, I believe, but I'm looking at like old images, and you can find all these on Google, of course. Really cool, vintage images of old video games. But there's a picture here of a game called 7 Cities of Gold, and they had, you had to collect goods, you had to collect resources and gold, and there was also like a food management, and it tells you like what your pace, like what kind of a pace you're taking. You're taking a cautious pace or an aggressive pace, and then it just says here like it's based around the expeditions to the New World by the Spanish Empire back in the 15th century. And it looks pretty cool. It says down at the bottom, "Sir, we discovered a Pueblo town." So that game was definitely one of the first ones with character management and resource management. Another game came out called what is it called? Excuse me, Heart of Africa. They were trying to build on the success of Seven Cities of Gold. Seven Cities did real well, and then I think the developers were Ozark Softscape of that game. They wanted to come out with another one, but it didn't do as well. And then, yeah. Any thoughts there?
You know, I feel like I remember hearing of these games as a child, and you know, really until you sort of sold me on Ark. I think you maybe showed me a trailer at some point. We were kind of hanging out actually in real life, and I think when I would hear these games, like say back in '83 or whatever, it didn't sound that appealing to me. Like I think you didn't have the sort of online experience with the other players was kind of missing, and I don't really gather that these were 2-player games like that you played with your buddy when he was over either. So, you know, I think in those days my focus was a little more towards sports, and I did do like Pitfall and those kind of adventure games, but I think like, you know,
I get that totally.
Yeah, as I was looking at them, I would think, you know, like I didn't see exactly the potential. But I do now. Like it's like, you know, and it makes me really interested to want to go back. I like one theme I see here is like sort of that there's an interest in the story of Robinson Crusoe, and I think I even saw one place they had made an adjective out of his names, like a Robinson-esque type game, or something like you know. I don't know the complete origins of that story, but I think, you know, we all saw the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, and like there's always been kind of a fascination with that life on a deserted island. You know, what would you do and how would you survive? And then people ask those questions even today. If you were trapped on a deserted island and you could only have one carb, like what would it be? You know, bread, rice, or pasta? You know, those kind of questions.
It's that anxiety and uncertainty, man.
Yeah,
coming back at it.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that instinctively are like I'd love to use this analogy of when folks are in prison, like even the hardest hardcore murderers, like one of the ways they keep them in line in prison is threaten them with being put in, I think what they call the shoe, like the, you know, the part where you're off by yourself, you know, in an isolated,
like the mega
situation.
Solitary, super mega solitary.
Yeah, and like that breaks the hardest people. And like when I hear of jail, I think that'd be the first place I'd want to be. Like I wouldn't want to be like getting cornholed or something in there by my cellmate. Like if I had a choice,
what was it you said earlier? You start at the butt first.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure they started the butt first in there too. Like, so I you know, I just have this picture of myself, like they come to check on me, and like I've got like some Star Wars men or something, and I'm like, pew, pew, doo, doo, doo. Like I'm just having the time of my life in there by myself, and like I don't think that's how it goes at all.
You should hand over that Star Trek insignia, man. You just mentioned Star Wars like that. Why don't you hand over that Star Trek insignia here for your brother?
It's all part of the session.
You hand it over to a real fan.
It's a little diversion for you there.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm trying not to say yeah or too much. I'm trying to get better at that, listeners.
I'm broken it. Yeah, I want to do a drinking game every time I say it. That or bad boy.
Get out of that Don Julio 70. So after Heart of America in 1985, I think we got a real winner that came out here. I saw this game everywhere. I'm looking at the interface right now. You can find it, you know, of course, on Google. Mm-hmm. And there's pictures of it, and it looks real heady. Like you gotta. It needs to get its hooks in you, and we're talking about Unreal World, released in 1992 and still in development today. In fact, you can find this game on Steam. Just type in Unreal World, and you'll see the latest version of it.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And if you look at the interface, you basically have a top section that kind of tells you what the weather's looking like. And there are pictures here, color pictures. There's like in this case, there's like a sun and it's cloudy, so it can tell you that it's partly cloudy. And then it shows you like a frontal view of what your character's looking like in a picture. And there's like a forest, so it tells you what kind of trees you're looking at. And then in the right section, it tells you what time of year it is. It says later summer, beginning of harvest month, noon. And then on the far right panel, you got a picture of your character. It says he's walking and has his name. It says if he's injured, fatigue, starvation, blood loss. It has all these character management elements. And it just, everywhere it tells you how fast you're walking. It tells you there's a text interaction area. And it just really looks like the first survival game that kind of started to take more from the elements that can create a survival game, meaning they took it to the next level with this one. And it's still in development. I think if I remember reading it correctly, they're kind of just putting you in a world. I think it's in Finland, an environment in Finland during the Iron Age, and I think you get to pick between being, you get to pick different. You can be a fisherman, you can be a hermit, a trapper, or a tradesman. I would probably pick a trapper.
Dead on,
right?
Trapper, 100%.
All day.
Yeah. I met a real trapper once, and he kind of scared the shit out of me, to be honest with you. That was one tough dude.
I'm going to hang you up, boy. I'm just playing.
It's kind of a crazy story. Like my dad and I had actually trapped a beaver that was kind of jacking up the dam at our farm, and like I was telling this trapper about it, thinking I was going to win some points with me, and he started asking me how I skin it, and like we didn't skin it, like we just kind of chucked it. Like it was a nuisance beaver. We weren't trapping it for its hide, and like I thought he was going to skin me there for a second. It like he was like,
I know what you mean.
Like out of nowhere, he was like
giving you the evil eye.
The way I figure, I make about 30 cents an hour. So if I found somebody that was in my traps, I'd have to kill him. I was like, holy shit. Okay, Trapper John.
Oh. Gosh.
Yeah. So, yeah, don't fuck with a trapper. As soon as I saw that list, I was like, definitely be a trapper.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like this game brought a lot of survival elements, I think. It brought more than the previous. In its open worldly wilderness, players have free reign to wander, hunt, skin, and structure shelters to survive the harsh reality that is Mother Nature in this game. And there's another image here where it looks like you can equip armor as well. And it tells you the amount of protection it gives you. So that's cool. That's kind of like a precursor to the armor and stuff that we use in Rust, Ark, and other games. Yeah. You know, you get that flak, you get the riot armor, leather, hide. You know, in Rust, there's all sorts of different types of kits of armor that you can use, from the base stuff up to like coffee can armor and stuff like that. You can use biohazard suits. And so, yeah, it looks like this may be, I might be wrong, but this might be the first instance of that type of manageability of the character.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier about the sort of like you have to have this buy-in sort of moment, and I feel like that's the case with all of these. Like I kind of mentioned to you after I'd been away from Ark for a while there, like maybe you hadn't played in a year and a half or so, and like in the very beginning I was like hyper aware that I was still like I could almost see the 2D world still. Like you know, kind of almost like if you use the holodeck type analogy, like I could almost sense that I was in a holodeck, like in a square room that had parameters, you know, an engine of sorts that they had built this world in.
So this is
once that emotion gets involved,
Tomahawk's trying to redeem himself for mentioning Star Wars earlier. The holodeck is a place on the Starship Enterprise from Star Trek where you can basically create any image or scenario. Yeah, I see what you're doing there, Tomahawk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it ain't easy being part of Section 31, but I do feel that buy-in moment, and I think with all these, like I mentioned when I went back and looked at Robinson's Requiem, like when you're watching a YouTube video of someone else playing, like you don't have that buy-in, so you kind of see how blocky things are and all that, but once you're in there, and like you get that buy-in. Like I think there's something that goes on in our brains, like I've read about, where our mind kind of only picks up on novel events, so it actually fills in the background, like through, like say I'm sitting here in my office. I've sat in here a number of times, so my brain knows what the window looks like and all that. So it's not focusing on that; it's focused on this screen. Right now where I've got your picture up here and things like those are the novel events that are taking place. And I think after we've been in these worlds for a little bit, you're focused on, say, that dinosaur that you're taming, or that food that you're looking for, or that armor, and your brain is filling in the background, and it kind of fills it in as the world,
Yes.
like in a way that is what makes these games so popular. I think it's that buy-in, when it's when it gets its hooks in you, as you kind of said,
Man, and it certainly does. Oh gosh. And next up in the milestones, we're mentioning these games because they each kind of brought their own. They each produced kind of like a milestone, if you will. Not all of them necessarily, and there's hundreds of survival games, but we're just kind of going through the main ones that made their mark and brought new elements to the survival genre. So Unreal World is still in development. Another game came out on the Super Nintendo, SNES, back in 1993 called SOS, where basically you had to, and this was a bare-bones survival game. It didn't do that well. I looked at pictures and video online. Basically, you just had to escape from this sinking ship, but all you basically did was just run forward and jump. And it's kind of like a time thing. I think you had a certain amount of time to escape the ship before it would sink. Mm-hmm. But that was it. I mean, that was like there certainly wasn't any crafting. No, I don't think there was any inventory management. There wasn't any character management beyond literally just making sure you got out of the boat. So that one didn't do amazingly well. And then the next year, 1994, you were just talking about it, Tomahawk. Mm-hmm. Robinson's Requiem, pioneer of crafting and inventory management. I have here written down. Is that?
I'm interested.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like, I had to relook. Like, I'd heard. Like, I think there's a movie out there maybe called Requiem for a Dream, but that's not a word that came up a whole lot in there in the old East Tennessee lexicon. So, one of my curiosities is, what is the Spanish word for Requiem?
I think it's the same.
Might be the same, yeah.
Because there's that movie. What was that movie you just mentioned? Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem for a Dream. Yeah.
Let me use our cheat code here. Google. Whenever we mention using cheat codes, we're talking about Googling stuff.
And when I looked it up, it kind of is like, it goes with, like, say, Catholic. There's a certain Catholic mass, like when you're kind of honoring the dead. And I think a requiem can kind of almost be seen as a ode to the dead of sorts, or a homage to the past, honoring something from the past, or something like that. Was kind of what I took that definition, or what I remember about looking it up. Like, what do you think of when you hear requiem? And I'm just curious why they chose that word here. And
gosh, I'm gonna sound like a total idiot because I have no actual idea what that word means. What I think it means based off of what I know, which is that movie Requiem for a Dream, Robinson's Requiem, is it to me? It sounds like a person's. It sounds like a situation they're in, a scenario, a burden they have. It's something that one way that they're dealing with. They're in the middle of. And it has kind of like a tone to it, like a context to it of weight, of something being like a weight. It might not be a negative weight or a positive weight. Usually it sounds negative, like if you've seen that movie Requiem for a Dream. Obviously that's a gnarly movie, and it's not good stuff going on in there. So that's like that person's struggle, their reality of the moment, and it's their own personal requiem. But I might be completely wrong. I'm just kind of, that's what I think it sounds like. It's like, in the case of this game, Robinson's Requiem, well, it's Robinson's journey. It's his his objective, the thing that he's dealing with right now in that moment, and it's his burden. Be it good or bad.
I think you're hitting dead on it, like kind of what I would think of, and I tie this back to Robinson Crusoe, that story of Robinson Crusoe kind of being trapped on a deserted island, and how he survived that. But one of the cool things that I saw and I've experienced in these survival games, and I think I've even mentioned to you in the past, is how everyone like they kind of set this situation up for you, but everyone's journey is their own journey. Like I talked about the group of guys that, they were describing the first time they played Ark, and they prepared to climb this mountain to go get some metal so they could make some metal tools, and they had to climb the mountain and, came back down, and that journey was theirs. Like it wasn't like that game just set out and said, okay, on day 3, you've got to, go get metal or whatever. That was their choice. Like they could have been taming a parasaur or whatever, but they chose that as their focus at that moment, and took that journey on their own. And I think that's one of the cool things about these games, and what I'm starting to value about them is that it's kind of your own story. I think our tribe has its own story.
Yep.
And where we're coming from, and what we've been through, and what we've lost and gained and took from other people.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot. My definition of Requiem was completely wrong, by the way. Just here between you and me, don't tell anyone else. But yeah,
like I said, it didn't come up a lot there at the old Rogersville City School. What shall we do in this Requiem, friends?
Nobody's saying Requiem in our small little pueblito here either. If I said that to, like Litro or something, he'd be like, ¿Qué? ¿Qué es eso?
¿Qué es Requiem aquí? Mi Requiem.
But, yeah, so that
is listening out there somewhere.
Who, Litro?
Yeah.
No, man. I don't know. He ain't listening to this.
I'll send it to him.
Yeah. Gosh, so that really right there, that's our survival game, loadout up to 94. I don't think there was a whole bunch that made too many waves up until, well, there was some games there like in the early 2000s, like Disaster Report, which was kind of like potentially the first blend of action and adventure with survival. But I think if I remember correctly, that game, you were kind of like, you were in this like apocalyptic scenario where you had to travel through subways and stuff to get to a specific location, and you had to manage your way through this whole disaster area to get to a specific location. And, I don't know too much about the game, so I don't want to say anything that isn't accurate, but I just remember it didn't do that amazingly well, but a lot of sources online pointed to it as being like the first kind of blend of those three. Well, I guess two rather. Action adventure with survival.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like I see something developing here, and like to kind of do this thing where we're tying in old things from the past to now, and then also maybe expand that into the future. Is like, I can't help but feel like as you see this progression, like you kind of had stories that were out there, and then you had that turned into sort of a role-playing game of that didn't involve video screens, but once video screens came out, like you're sort of redeveloping this almost life simulation type thing, and now we're starting to add more and more to that to make it more and more like real life. And I just wonder if in the future, if there's not going to, when I hear people talk about what the metaverse might involve, if because things I'll see these news stories about someone got married in the metaverse, and like if you go back and look, someone got married in, I think, that game called Second Life, like 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
That are in video games that we've been in these open world games, like we've been doing them for 20 years. That they're talking about as like the new potential of the metaverse, like these online economies and things, like they already exist in video games and have for years. So I think like we're kind of laying that groundwork, and ultimately, like as you add virtual reality to the mix and those headsets and things, like it's just getting more and more real.
Man, it's going to be nuts. You'll see one of these days, we keep this going, we'll be talking about survival games in VR on one of these future episodes.
Oh, I think so.
Keep an eye out for that one, folks.
One of the questions, like as we're going through this and you see these elements coming out, like, now you've got character management with health and water, and we've almost always had health in a lot of ways. Like some of it, like you didn't just die when you got hit once, like you had to get hit a few times. But now as you're having to manage your water and your food, and we talked about sort of the sense of loss that has came. I know I'm jumping ahead in our list of games here, but as you see this developing, like what do you feel like is missing? Like why? Obviously there's more at stake in real life. Like if I
that's it. See,
Yeah.
I already had an answer for you, Tomahawk, and then you just kind of answered it in a way, and that is suspenseful moment. That is that anxiety thing, and I'm tying it back around what. And I know that's not missing because that's been existing, but I think they amplify it by the element of your character dying and losing everything. Mm-hmm. That's the element that I think, and I don't know if it's missing necessarily because I think Unreal World has that, and I'm not sure if Robinson's Requiem does, but I do know that one thing I didn't mention earlier is that they were the first game known for where you could amputate your own limbs.
to
survive through inventory management. Like you'd pull out your knife, out of your inventory, needle and thread. I think they were like medical kits, and you'd become the one-leg wonder. Your character, if you couldn't manage the disease or the whatever it was that caused the leg to need to be amputated. I haven't played this game. Matter of fact, I think a lot of these games that we haven't played, and we won't talk about them too much, what we haven't played, except for what we investigated. But according to this, it's the first one. We could take off your own limbs.
Arms.
Dang.
Ever since I heard Theo Von tell that story about that guy that had no arms that choked out like 30 people in his town, like I'm a little more okay with losing a limb, I feel like, because that's the route I'm going to go. Dude had 0 arms and was choking people out. Like left and right. I don't know if it was the figure 4 or what the heck he was putting on him, but like, yeah,
was this in jiu-jitsu? Because Theo Von is I think he's like a 3rd stripe white belt.
Well, apparently this guy was a 4-stripe white.
He must have been just doing triangles left and right on people. Get over here.
He was like headbutting people and like getting them on the ground, and then like, yeah. I don't know. Like I mean, he said 30 people, 0 arms, 30 people.
I love Theo Von's podcast, man. Gosh, that guy's hilarious.
Yeah. So I as far as one limb, like my left arm, I'd get rid of that in a heartbeat. I might not even be that hungry. Like just save it for later.
Yeah.
God.
Oh man, amputate your own limbs. So that was. Another huge element of Robinson's Requiem. Sorry, I'm kind of deviating from the mic here. Let me get closer.
Yeah, I'm sucking my coffee.
Konami had a couple of... Konami dropped, in 1999, Survival Kids. I think that game did pretty well, and it was inspired by Robinson's Requiem.
I don't know what the Konami code did in there.
Yeah, that's a good question. You're in the middle of Survival Kids, right, bust it out.
Up, down, left.
I was about to try saying it. I don't want to mess it up. We just did that episode too.
Yeah.
Gosh, now I feel like I have to. Up, down, left, right, B, A, start. And if it's 2 players, you add select, right?
Select start. Yeah.
Damn. Oh man. Okay, so now we're looking at Stranded, 2003, and this was a big one. This was a big one, Tomahawk. You know why?
Because it had dino.
Yeah, man. Couldn't tame him, though. And I think it was only 1 level. But these were the first guys to really like, hey, we should throw some dinosaurs in here. We know those kids love dinosaurs.
And so it also laid the groundwork for base building, huh?
It did. And you know, if you look at the images of the base building on this game, on God, I'm having a brain fart, on Stranded, which was developed by Unreal Software, 2003. You're left shipwrecked and forced to complete missions to ensure your survival on the island. The first mission requires the construction of a shelter. In today's gaming world, we would refer to this as base building. So yes, it was the precursor to base building, and like I was saying, if you look at the pictures, you can totally see the similarity. You know, you can see it, little ropes in the perimeter of the building, and I look at that and it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely like, you know, all these games today were inspired by this for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you see the dinosaurs in this game? Did you see what they looked like?
A little bit. They were a little undefined, I guess, like to some degree.
Kind of look like the dinosaurs in Ark when your game hasn't rendered in all the way, and it's just like this big triangle. You're like, what the hell?
You put this TV in game mode.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Exactly.
Yeah. Like I say, it's that buy-in, though, man. I mean, it's like, you know, once you kind of program your brain to say that's okay, that's what a dinosaur looks like, you know, I think eventually you buy in when you're into the game.
Yep. Yep. It's it. That's what I was saying earlier. You just it gets the hooks in you, and that's it.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say too, I can't speak for you, Tomahawk, but survival games is my favorite genre of video game. I didn't even think about mentioning that at the top. It's my favorite.
It has to. I have to say it is mine now. You know, as Ark has become my favorite game of all time. It you know, just naturally that they kind of follow each other. But as I mentioned earlier, when I heard of these games back in the day, it almost seemed too slow somehow, or it's a slow burn. You know, I think in even you know, the most exciting ones.
It is a slow burn, and there's ways to speed the burn. You know, like you can go to private servers, boosted servers, unofficial servers, you know, and stuff like that on games like Ark and Rust, and all the stuff is modified so that you don't have to dump the hours into it. But it kind of takes the magic out of it, in my opinion. Kind of takes the magic out of it.
I have to agree. Yeah,
I mean, it hurt less when you get raided because it didn't take all the time. You know, all the metal runs and all the cementing paste and all the, you know, wood and all that stuff. But yeah,
I feel like as I look at this information as in totality, I kind of see, like I think as we get into the more here in a bit about the psychology of how people behave in different PvE or PvP situations, like we're going to see that that level of sort of buy-in and also the level of like how hard the environment is on you, I think dictates how you act with the other players. If the environment's extremely tough, like you almost have to work together. But if it's not, like you kind of get that thrill that you're talking about by going up against someone else, and you just can't replace it. I mean, I think there's a story there's something they made us read in high school of I think it's called The Most Dangerous Game, like where these guys that are into hunting, they eventually end up hunting human beings, and after they hunt human beings, they don't want to go back to shooting deer because them human beings are smart as shit compared to deer and like way much more of a challenge. And like, so, you know, when I'm trying to go up against that dino that's literally just an AI computer program, it really don't compare as if like you're behind the controls and, you know, I've got to deal with you. Because you can get me so many different ways. I don't know if you saw, like, when our base got raided before, I'm pretty sure, like, I guess later on I found out it was Mickey's, but I thought they left us a, like, level 45 fire wyvern egg, like, right where our egg incubator used to be.
Oh, man,
like,
that would have been so mean. Level 45, that's trash.
Yeah, well,
Like, here's your keep this.
But if you were up there on that platform, you sure as shit would have got that thing and went and like
Hatched
cooked
it, yeah.
Like, yeah, because it was all you had. Like it was you're either going to jump off there with nothing, or you know, like you would have cussed them for a minute. Like I thought, God, that was like the hottest, just the burn of all time. Like that makes me madder than losing the Quetzal. Like. Oh, I gotta mention that, dude. Like it took me about 2 days to let that hit me that Mayrod was gone. Like as frustrating as he was to tame, like when that didn't really hit me at first, and like when it did, I was like, man, I loved that bird.
Well, for what it's worth, like they didn't get any of that stuff because we, you know, that's why we left it out. Because if it all been in cryopods, it'd all be in theirs now.
Yeah, and what I'm getting, you know, I'm going too far into the details of that, but just that psychological thing, like for that second that I thought these fuckers that took all our stuff, they also like, you know, had to leave this here, you know, like
Assholes.
And then I picked it up, you know, and I was like putting up torches. You know?
If you had to call them out one thing in Spanish, what would it have been?
Fucking a la verga, I think I would say just.
Pinches culeros.
Chinga su madre.
You tell him, Tomahawk. Yeah, man. Hey, you know. I know, man. I know that feeling. That's why I was like, we're totally going down a rabbit hole with Ark, per usual. It's all right. This is our survival episode.
But it is like that person behind it, you know, like is where it ties into what we're talking about.
There's another human there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there ain't nothing like it, dude. Like you know, I love hunting, and you know, go with my cousin Dave. We'll go duck hunting and everything. But man, if we went out there and hunted real people, like even with paintball guns or something, like it's way different. Like, you know, no disrespect to the animals or anything like that, but people do crazy things, man. People.
Yeah. There's gotta be some cerebral liquids in there moving around that when you play a survival game, especially one of these newer ones, that those liquids and chemicals in your brain start moving around as if, like you describe, you were actually out there like surviving against other people that are in control.
Yeah.
And, you know, pretty sure there's a Star Trek Enterprise episode about something like that where Captain Archer and his crew beam down to this planet and there's like a bunch of hunters and they're like, their whole thing is like hunting this sentient being. And Archer's like, hell with that. You're not hunting anymore. Because, you know, he puts a stop to it.
I do feel like that goes back to Most Dangerous Game. And I want to say, like, have you ever been exposed to sort of how that there's basically like 34 stories, 34 tropes as they call them, that exist in all literature, like all of Shakespeare's plays. There's only basically 34 different stories that we tell as human beings.
Oh, that's fascinating. I didn't know that, but I kind of like get what you're getting at here.
Yeah, and I feel like this Stranded on a Desert Island is one of them. Like you see it in a ton of, you know, like I say, the Castaway movie, like Gilligan's Island back in the day as a kid, like a sitcom that I watched, and it's one of the tropes. Like in, you know, and I think video games like pull from this. Like we saw how it, like, you know, we even came from the 1870s. Like you know, I think there was kind of a story there that kind of got introduced to that, and. So yeah, I think that this is just kind of that survival is one of those stories, one of those, you know, kind of back themes.
And then maybe another one of them, sorry for totally jumping in like that, but adding in that there's another human after me factor into the trope.
Yeah.
Vice and us after them.
Yeah.
If you're, in this case, if you're a PvPer, if you're into that, you know, you're going after them too.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna get into that base and I'm gonna take all their stuff, and there's a huge satisfaction there. You know, it's like God, and when it's
so it's almost like as soon as you had it on Stranded here, you had the first base built. Like it seems like you opened the door for the first raid, you know, or the first taking away of that base,
or that feeling of investment into this virtual reality, you know, not obviously not, I'm not talking about VR, but there's like into this game world of something to lose, something to lose that you.
And You see how, like, when we're watching Star Trek, like when, I mentioned the other day, like we all laugh about when we see that guy with the red shirt on that we haven't been introduced yet. He's going to be dead in a few minutes. Like when he gets selected to randomly go on the away team.
He's on the away team, going down to the planet's surface. He's out.
Yeah, we just had that heartfelt moment where they try to get us invested in him just a little bit. Like, I think that's why, like because it's like we have a ton invested in Spock. Like when we're watching that, like, so we know he ain't gonna die. Like I mean, yeah, it seems like he's died 100 times.
Yeah, and Wrath of Khan, he'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah,
they're sending this new guy down to the surface. What color is his shirt? It's red. Oh yeah, he's gone.
Dead.
Like, why do you say that? Just trust me. He's dead.
R.I.P. Yep. Yeah. And I think, like, as you start this game, like 5 minutes into Ark, you don't have anything invested in that character. Like, the game could turn off and you wouldn't give a crap. But like after you've got him up to level 100, after 30 days of building on that, like, you've got a ton invested. You've got a large backstory.
Yeah. By that time, you've already run caves, collected artifacts. You're probably got a metal base up with turrets at that point. You certainly have got a few tames, which are dinosaurs. You're in at that point. You're like,
you're getting skin in the game, man.
Gosh, yeah. So, God, so much to talk about here. So much emotion in this. Where are we? We covered Robin's Requiem, we covered Disaster Report, we covered Stranded 2003. There was another game that came out in 2003 that's still in development today called Worm Online, WURM. Very weird name, but it's actually a medieval game. I looked at it. And don't want to touch on this one too much because I really just have no idea about it. So
I don't know a lot either, but I am interested to talk about the next one on the list.
I bet you are. Before we do that, though, this has been part 1 of episode 3 on survival games. Tune in soon for part 2, and thanks for listening.